Days passed fast till the insect race's warships approached Azure Star. The bug swarm leapt from their ships like starving predators descending upon a juicy meal. Before even reaching the surface, they shrieked and howled across space, vowing to exterminate every life form on the planet, young or old. It didn't matter. But no one expected what happened next. A terrifying beam of light burst out from the planet at incomprehensible speed, vaporizing an entire column of insects into ash in an instant. Those not hit directly were still blown apart, arms and legs scattered, bodies floating lifeless in the void. The ambush happened so fast the lead bug froze, stunned. Only after a pause did it realize a black swarm had surged out from the green-blue planet. Leading them was a figure with golden wings, lava dragon, demon phoenix, and thunder dragon. They were the vanguard of defense. Demon Phoenix clicked her tongue at the enemy. That aura is absolutely disgusting. Not far behind, the Falcon squad led by Big Bird exchanged solemn glances. Strange, their aura feels just like ours, one of them muttered. Thunder Dragon was more surprised they'd even gotten here so quickly. He had just returned from Earth. With a quick scan, Lava Dragon estimated here were over 100,000 enemies. Most were Transcendent rank 2 or 3, with 8 rank 4s sprinkled in. Not too bad, he muttered. The Bloody Crow, known for charging first, would have no trouble shredding low-rank frontliners. To raise morale, Thunder Dragon roared, "Wipe them all out, turn them into specimens for our master." And with that, he launched himself forward like a rocket, setting an example for all Misty Mountain's beasts to follow. Seeing the dragon who had killed their kin charge so brazenly, the lead insect commander's eyes turned bloodshot. "Attack! Kill them all!" That shout was its last, when a blinding light swept across, and he vanished in a puff of dust, taking nearly 200 of soldiers with he. Lava Dragon had made a flawless opening with just one breath from his maw. The insect army watched in horror as their vanguard leader was reduced to just a floating head. Meanwhile, Thunder Dragon had already reached the front lines, his murderous aura so intense that several bugs froze in fear, making it easy for him to crush them by the dozen. The Falcon squad's barrage of energy bullets didn't stop until their spiritual energy was drained, shredding dozens of bugs in one go. Nearby, Demon Phoenix's flames also swept the field with no mercy. As the battle raged, a massive green mass surged into view, forcing Phoenix to halt midair. A giant insect with a form of razor claws blocked his path. "Why the hell is there a bug this huge?" he screeched. When acid green slime spewed out, he instantly realized the purpose of that monstrous mouth. With centuries of combat experience, he dodged effortlessly. But then another blast came without warning. No cooldown at all. While Phoenix dodged again, the Bloody Crow got caught in the blast. Her escorts quickly scattered, forming a defensive formation to protect their core. Because even if just one survives, the bloodline of Crow still holds a chance to be reborn. Suddenly, Lava Dragon roared from afar, "Leave it to me!" Then he shot forward like a bullet from a gun, slamming into the bloated belly of the giant insect. The impact drove deep, sending the creature crashing into a crystalline meteor behind it, which exploded in a glorious, gut-busting blast. But that didn't stop the battle for even a second. The Vanguard swarm, moving at high speed, began hurling fireballs toward the defenders, using pure heat to send everything straight to the underworld. Of course, where there's fire, there must be ice. Cutting through the haze of falling fire, massive spikes of ice burst forward, revealing the razor-sharp crest of the White Dragon. She is a solo fighter, charged straight into the enemy swarm without hesitation. One of the youngest beasts of Misty Mountain, but don't let that fool you. This little girl was just as ferocious as any veteran. Precisely because she was so strong, a more powerful than usual insect was sent to intercept him. This one looked like a giant fire ant, blocking his way just before he could smash through the crystalline warship. The bug let out a sonic wave so shrill it rattled the brain. At first, just one bug was manageable, but the sound spread like a signal, and wherever it reached, the surrounding bugs opened their mouths and shrieked in unison, a deafening, screeching crescendo of re-re-re. Thousands of insects screaming at once created a horrific symphony that made the very air around them tremble. Even Thunder Dragon hesitated because the sonic onslaught shook even his soul. To rush in recklessly now would risk falling into some mysterious trap. That's why, for now, no one had broken through to the enemy's core yet. Without warning, a black swarm poured out of the enemy's crystal ship. Reinforcements? There were so many. Thunder Dragon immediately shouted a warning. "Everyone, stay alert!" And he was right. This new wave was far more savage, far more bloodthirsty than the ones before. From space, the view around Azure Star was like a crumb-covered cake swarmed by 1,000 ants, their war cries echoed endlessly. The beasts of Misty Mountain held their ground fiercely, determined to protect their master, who was still at the center of a raging evolution storm. None of them knew. Did their master even realize how dire things had gotten beyond the boundary of this world? Drifting in space were countless fragments of corpses, but the survivors were not afraid in the least. They howled like mad, rushing straight toward the most crowded spots to attack. And ahead loomed a sphere packed tight with demonic beasts, not a gap left between them, yet they still pressed their faces into each other, gasping greedily, until the light from within burst outward, and Thunder Dragon, with just a single sweep of its wings, flung all those scrawny creatures away. With its sky-piercing majesty, it paid no mind to what kind of rabble they were, simply letting its gaze sweep across the hundreds of thousands arrayed before it. Not far away, the bloody crow was splitting into clones to increase its numbers, facing the demonic beasts head-on. Groups were being divided to confront the enemy, and though the battle had only just begun, the lava dragon already realized they were swarming like ants, endless, without end in sight. But what else could be done? There was no way back. A streak of light shot across the sky of Dragon Island, carrying with it an all-too-familiar stream of spiritual energy. Xiaoling and Ninetails turned their eyes to follow it, startled when they saw half a bug being carried in by the falcon. Though it was their first time seeing one up close, its form was easy to recognize. Xiaoling immediately knew it was an insect race. As the group hesitated on what to do, a familiar voice rang out. What happened? It was their master, who had appeared at some point to join in. The outward appearance of this insect was very similar to an earthly wasp, and when observed through the system, its full name was revealed. Stellar Insect Race, Rank 4. Its innate life talent was Body of Evolution, a body that continuously evolved to adapt to harsh environments, even capable of evolving in the midst of battle. Its special abilities included vacuum survival. Even without breathing, it could breathe steadily in space. Hunger suppression allowed it to fall into a state of prolonged slumber. With the higher the rank, the stronger the suppression. Hibernation, it could sleep deeply within a hive and continue evolving. In addition, they resembled ants in that individual consciousness was always unconditionally obedient to the hive. Next came the elite soldier class, machines born to hunt and kill, with sharp mouths that could pierce through anything, injecting neurotoxin past defenses. Truly terrifying, and more importantly, their methods of evolution and combat had already become far more perfected. Big Bird hurriedly warned, "Master, this race is truly terrifying." Especially their screams. Even Thunder Dragon and Lava Dragon were stunned by it. At that moment, it was as if they were being controlled. Yuzu guessed it must be the hive consciousness, a condensed will that controlled the insect race. If even Lava Dragon could be affected, then their spiritual control must be at peak, rank 5, perhaps even capable of reaching rank 6. This was far too serious. Xiaoling asked what their master intended to do, for she didn't dare to offer any suggestion on her own. On Azure Star, or even on Earth, most beings followed the path of personal evolution. One-on-one battles were manageable, but when it came to warfare, if they were to be compared with insects that knew coordination and specialized assault, it was simply not the same class at all. Even if they gained small victories at the start, eventually they would be ground down and defeated. "That must mean you have a plan, right?" Ninetails asked quietly. He nodded, then opened the dimension gate to let Pink Dragon out. Yuzu leapt up, telling the dragon to carry him away, though he said nothing of where. The two Ninetails sisters ran after him, asking what would become of his body. Wasn't he still ascending in rank? No problem. Yuzu tossed back a reply, then immediately departed in haste. Outside in the universe, the insect race multiplied endlessly, small yet so dense that the sky itself was covered in streaks of black. Within the stellar insect race, their numbers reached tens of billions, with countless strong among them. In the past, when they waged war against the titans of the divine domain, the hive consciousness commanded only 1/10 of their forces against the titans. But now, to oppose Misty Mountain, they had deployed a full third of their army, around 3 billion powerhouses in that seething swarm. Among them was Insect King, a rank 5 transcendent with a bloodthirsty battlefield interface. In its mind echoed the familiar urging, "Go, my child, hunt them down." It murmured back, "Yes, mother," then shot forward at full speed, leaving behind a stone chunk deeply dented. Insect King, hungry for slaughter, sought an enemy to kill, unaware that coming straight toward it from the opposite direction was the final boss of Misty Mountain. Yuzu, with his newly opened eye, gazed straight out onto the battlefield. At a glance, he recognized how terrifying the numbers of the insect race truly were. Any star that encountered them faced calamity. Even the 10 great beasts, with their abilities of self-preservation, might not guarantee the safety of Azure Star and Earth. Before him stood Insect King, its size utterly distinct, a monstrous bug wielding rank 5 transcendent strength. Its innate life talent included parasitism, seizing superior genes and gestating a more perfect life form. Its special abilities included lethal toxins that corroded all things. It could also conceal itself in any blind spot, bursting forth with a killing strike. Moreover, the spikes in its mouth could be fired at the speed of light to easily slay foes, paired with a savage tail strike with tenfold force, enough to shake entire stars. Formidable as it was, Yuziyu only found it fascinating. Smiling, he shot straight toward it. Little White Dragon had just breathed out a torrent of spiritual power, muttering as she counted the 98th insect blasted away. Impressive as the number was, she was exhausted, just about to rest when she ran right into Golden Butterfly, flaunting her might. Shooting wildly while yelling at the top of her voice, the 376th. The pressure was overwhelming. White Dragon was about to rejoin when out of nowhere, a streak of light flashed toward him. Before he could react, it punched him square in the mouth. Right before his face loomed the jagged maw of Insect King. If bitten once, not to go mad would be a pity. As the toxin spread swiftly under his snowy skin, Insect King seized White Dragon and squeezed tight. Agonized, the dragon writhed, spitting blood, thrashing desperately but unable to escape the monster's claws. Nearby, the phoenix shrieked out White Dragon's name, and behind him, the flock of fire vultures streaked in for the rescue. Using their speed, they tried to distract Insect King, but they had met too strong an opponent, a few crushing blows from the king, and they all spat blood at once. Thunder Dragon, seeing from afar, streaked in like lightning, his movements so immense, Insect King had to turn to look. Wary, he lifted a leg and kicked straight at Thunder Dragon. With a single blow, he sent the dragon flying dozens of meters, slamming into an asteroid before stopping. Though the wound wasn't severe, Thunder Dragon realized this opponent was both powerful and nimble, unlike any of the other insects. What was that? Insect King had released White Dragon and was turning to look at something else. As if sniffing something out, he suddenly boomed forward, shooting off like an arrow. Running, huh? Thunder Dragon wanted to know where he was going, and so did his mother. From the hive, she roared, forcing him to return to the battlefield, but Insect King ignored her. He weaved and darted, drawing ever closer to the hive. Coming straight at him, from the opposite direction, was a streak of golden light, slamming into his face without mercy. Insect King raised his arm to block, but was quickly thrown off balance, his body flipping backward and hurled far into the distance. He crashed into a massive insect warship, exploding with a resounding boom, and another boom right after. The impact blew open the ship's roof, exposing the Insect Queen who had been commanding Insect King. She broke out in a cold sweat, realizing that if Insect King hadn't blocked it just now, that streak of light would have smashed straight in and killed them all. The insect gaped his jaws in threat, warning the enemy not to act rashly, but Yuziyu liked acting rashly. What could they do to him anyway? Blocking him only made him more entertained, and what was even more fascinating was how Insect King's broken arm, in just moments, bubbled with cells and formed a brand new arm. He flexed and stretched it experimentally, found it quite usable, then turned his gaze back to the opponent, ready to dive in for the fight. Yuziyu pulled out a gleaming weapon, not just one piece, but the entire set, not missing a single rod. If Insect King could dodge one, could it really evade the whole set? Even without eyes, the king sensed the brilliance, not expecting Yuziyu to hurl all the lightning spears at once. They all converged, tips aimed straight at Insect King in a single barrage, colliding directly with him. With his thick hide in full preparation, he wasn't pushed away as easily as before. But even so, he could only hold out for just over 10 seconds. He had only just been blasted against a small meteorite when Yuziyu leapt down from Pink Dragon's head, ordering, "Hold it back, don't let it near me." Through the dense haze of smoke and dust, at the bottom of the deep crater, Insect King was still in perfect condition. Raging, he opened his maw in a long roar, just about to leap out for revenge when countless fiery pillars spiraled down like mad. Not one, but many fire tornadoes appeared, encircling it. Pink Dragon stood at the center of them all, declaring, "Your opponent has changed. Now it's me. In the name of purgatory that burns the world, this is the secret fire art of the dragon race." The fire tornadoes quickly intertwined, blazing like a living creature. A colossal dragon's maw materialized, waiting to swallow Insect King whole. This was the purgatory heaven technique of the dragon clan, unleashed just for a single insect. As the dragon's mouth closed, Insect King was swallowed, the meteorite half devoured by flame, swiftly engulfed as if a sea of fire had crashed down. Pink Dragon peered down at the spot where the dragon's head had clamped onto Insect King, seeing his body still thrashing within. The monster howled furiously but could not break free. "You won't escape. This entire star has become a sea of fire." But no sooner had she spoken than Insect King burst out of his fiery prison, shooting straight toward Pink Dragon in the sky. The two clashed head-on, blows smashing amidst the swirling inferno. Meanwhile, Yuziyu surged toward the swarm of insect warships, but instead of striking immediately, he chose the largest one, floating high above. Taking a deep breath, he bellowed loudly, "I am the mutant tree of Azure Star. Who is the one in command among you?" A purple rift of light appeared swiftly, and an insect queen shot out, eagerly answering him. "Mutant tree, judging from your spiritual energy, you must be the strongest creature of this star." His face hardened with threat. "Your large-scale assault clearly means you're declaring war, doesn't it? So what if we are?" Since the other side was already this arrogant, Yuziyu had no reason to negotiate. His spiritual power surged, overwhelming and violent, silencing the insect queen on the spot, while the swarm behind her grew restless. He hadn't unleashed a single move, yet the pressure radiating from him was unmistakable. Even the sleeping offspring were roused awake. "Could this one be stronger than I thought?" she shrieked. "What kind of monster are you exactly?" A loud cracking sound answered in place of words. A section of space split open, spilling forth countless radiant vines that latched onto the insect warship and began pulling. The magma dragon called after him, "Master, should I drag that into the 9 great dimensions?" The insect mother sensed danger, hurriedly ordering her brood to stop those vines at once. They swarmed Yuziyu, numbering in the thousands, but he only sneered. "Ha! A bunch of petty rank 5s dare resist?" With that, a sphere of spiritual power thundered down, incinerating every kind of insect and bug alike. System messages appeared before him, showing that his evolution points were increasing. Though the points gained here weren't as much as when killing other creatures, the sheer number, and the fact that most of them lacked souls, made slaughtering them efficient enough. Evolution points were always needed anyway. Yuziyu flicked his hand, summoning a glittering galaxy. He didn't strike immediately, but made it swell larger and larger, merging into a complete form. A radiant dragon's head, facing off against thousands of fearless insects, was already more than enough. With a sweep of his hand, the dragon's head lunged forward, jaws agape, sucking the insects into its endless inner space. Its mouth slammed shut with a boom. Those swallowed died instantly, while those outside were reduced to ash by the spiritual sweep. The insect queen commander screamed in pain, but more than pain, she was terror. Without her brood, who would protect her now? The vines tightened faster and faster, wrapping the entire warship like a spool of yarn. The dragons held back, silently watching, waiting to see what their master intended. From the vines, Yuziyu could sense that as the insect numbers dwindled, their hive consciousness weakened steadily. Even their spiritual force, once nearing rank 4 transcendent level, began to falter. Were they truly feeling fear? The vines worked tirelessly, dragging the warship close, then bored a hole through its roof right above the commander, slithering inside to seize her and slam her head to the ground. She couldn't resist. Before she knew it, Yuziyu stood before her. His face was dark, threatening. "Can we talk now?" The insect queen, once so defiant, now fell silent, no longer daring to boast. It was obvious she was the weaker side, yet after her mouth was clamped for a while, she couldn't hold back. "What do you want? What are you trying to do?" "Simple. I want your entire race to join our side." Insect Mother laughed madly. "What? Join? You mean slavery, don't you? What you really want is to take the hive's spiritual control for yourself." Insolence deserved punishment. Pain hit her instantly, making her scream. Yuziyu had only used the radiant galaxy to slice off an arm, just enough to shut her up. He hadn't even gone for the throat yet. But that scream reached the ears of Insect King, still trapped in the sea of fire. The moment he heard his mother was hurt, it grew restless, determined to return. He frantically searched for a gap to break free, while Pink Dragon, watching closely, warned coldly, "Don't even think about it." Behind Yuziyu, another swarm of the brood, drawn by Insect Mother's call, rushed straight at him. With just a glance and a flick of his wrist, a burst of spiritual light erupted, blasting through them like skewering meat on a spit. Another wave of insects prepared to throw their lives away for their mother, when suddenly, Insect Mother shrieked, "Stop!" They screeched to a halt, obeying her command without hesitation, without a single question. "Oh, you're afraid I'll kill them all, aren't you?" Yuziyu chuckled, having already seized the insect queen's weak spot, though she refused to admit it. To be blunt, if I'd wanted that, I would have slaughtered all of them outside already. I won't enslave you. On the contrary, I want to form an alliance with you. What? Form an alliance? The vines loosened gently, as proof of Yuziyu's words. What he wanted was simple. In the future, when Earth launched campaigns to conquer the great starfields, the insect race would join Earth's side. That was all. We'll handle the conquest. You'll be in charge of raiding and seizing the territory. And also, Insect King must become my subordinate. The terms were few and simple at that. She, full of doubt, was about to retort when he spoke again. One more thing, even the one hiding deep over there. Yuziyu's gaze cut through the stone pillars, where he saw a figure curled into a small, motionless lump. What? Not just Insect King. You want even the Queen to come under your banner? Yes, and let me be clear. Under my command, you won't be mistreated. Don't believe me? Go to Earth and see for yourselves. My multi-species corporation is top-ranked in recruitment and benefits, though, well, it does require frequent travel away from home. Yuziyu gave the insect only a few seconds to decide. When the time was up, she would make the decision. The conditions were lenient, but with one addendum: refuse, and the entire race would be annihilated. It was plainly a lopsided deal, not fair at all. The insect mother was furious enough to want to bite him right then. "This is your last chance," he reminded her sternly. At that moment, another voice joined in. "Agree, mother." A female insect stepped forth, her form strikingly human-like, her bearing altogether different. The sight made the queen startle. Surely this was the Insect Empress. The system displayed, Insect Empress, rank 4 transcendent. Her innate life talent was psychic sensitivity, able to perceive emotions, thoughts, even memories at close range, and control others. Her special abilities included heightened speed to wield as a weapon, devastating psychic shockwaves that could crush all, and psychic resonance to directly annihilate an enemy's spirit. On top of that, a psychic shield to protect herself. As if that weren't enough, the Empress also possessed extraordinary learning capacity, along with the power to intervene in reality, moving mountains and filling seas. Yuziyu grew extremely cautious. She had far too many spiritual abilities. Her power was formidable. And yet, the Insect Empress showed no arrogance. Instead, she knelt before Ziyu, declaring, "We agree to lead the entire insect race under your banner." "Good." He smiled, as though the matter was settled, and produced several small orbs. "Take these as a welcome gift." A welcome gift? The Insect Empress was dumbstruck. Even the mother hadn't expected that what Yuziyu offered was condensed spiritual essence, radiating thick, vibrant life force, and he was simply giving it away. Not only that, he encouraged them. "Work hard for me, and in the future, there will be even greater rewards." At that, the insect mother's tone turned to obedience. Perhaps joining this mutantry was indeed the wise choice. Outside, Lava Dragon gawked. The insect race had stopped attacking. They were retreating back to the hive. That meant their master had succeeded. Insect King also ceased his struggle. Since his mother had already surrendered, there were no more cries to answer. They were now witnessing a new historic milestone. Thousands of insects crawled back into the hive, and in an instant the whole starry sky fell silent. Yuziyu, satisfied with the sight, ordered everyone to return to Thunglam's star. The matter here was finished. The beasts were overjoyed. Fighting endlessly had brought nothing but exhaustion with no results, yet now their master had not only ended the battle, but even subdued the enemy. "Divine Tree, is your true strength really rank 6 transcendent?" Insect Empress asked in wonder. He glanced at her and replied with a question of his own. "Why? You don't believe it?" "No, I'm just curious. Standing at such heights, what kind of scenery can one see?" Yuziyu answered lightly. "If you want to know, climb up yourself and see." "Is it possible for me?" she asked, looking ahead. He said, "From now on, I'll take you as my disciple. You'll have to risk everything to grow strong. When the time comes, you'll lead the insect race to be even stronger, sweeping across the starfields." Insect Empress didn't realize she was the first disciple Yuziyu had ever taken in, but the future shone so brightly. How could he not accept her? Back on Dragon Island, this time enormous insect hives also descended, causing the children there to crowd around, chirping with curiosity. "What is this? Why are there floating spirit stones on Dragon Island?" Yuziyu had to explain. "This is the dwelling of Insect Empress, which I obtained from the insect mother. It's forged entirely from dark crystals, a rare mineral that can nurture the soul and transmit spiritual power extremely well. More importantly, it's a flying fortress that can move through the universe. When it's upgraded later and fitted with human technology weapons, it'll be perfect. An immensely terrifying fortress will be born." He finished speaking and laughed to himself like a fool, leaving Nine Tails wondering what strange illness he had. But peace in the cosmos lasted only briefly. Between the spirit stones, violent tremors erupted. Something crimson appeared, translucent like jelly, yet brimming with spiritual energy within, darting swiftly past. They resembled tree roots, and upon each leaf could be seen reflected images of the beasts and humans of Misty Mountain. Surprise! These were all reflections cast upon the vast canopy of a crimson tree, planted upon the back of a crimson beast. It strongly resembled Yuzi's own form when riding the Azure Dragon, but with Time's mark etched deeply. Its size was unimaginably vast. The head of its mount alone was larger than the nearby planet. It gazed into the planet, then gently used its vines to draw the planet toward itself. The entire planet was swallowed by the tree trunk in one gulp. A muffled detonation rippled through the universe. Who could have imagined a planet destroyed so easily? From the tree's trunk came an ancient rumbling voice. "Mutant tree, here I come." The giant tree strode toward Azure Star, leaving behind fragments of the shattered planet. By the time Yuzi and Insect Empress returned to Dragon Island, his evolution was complete. His form as the mutant tree was so colossal that Insect Empress was no more than an insect upon his branches. But what was that compared to his true potential? He could grow even larger if he wished. "As for you," he said, turning his words toward Insect King kneeling nearby, "you've recovered quickly, haven't you? Weren't you almost burned to ash by Pink Dragon just before?" Insect King calmly replied, "So long as I don't die, wounds of that level heal completely in just 2 days. I always thought the dragon race had the strongest self-healing, but it seems the insect race surpasses them by a tier. These days, you two should cultivate inside Dimension of Life." You invited Insect Empress and Insect King inside, and the life force within was so intense that both were instantly drawn in. "Let's go, sister." The two siblings dashed inside at once. At such a time, not training would be a waste. Closing the gateway to Dimension of Life, Yuzi turned to the newcomer. "What do you think of that Insect King?" From a slit of dark space, Lizian stepped out. "He's very strong," he admitted honestly, "strong to the point of being terrifying." Your own strength is almost ready to break into rank 5. But remember, Insect King's battlefield was the vast starry void itself. Titans of the divine domain, angels of the astral realm. The number of battles he has fought and the caliber of his enemies far surpass anything you've faced. If you get the chance, cross blades with it. I believe you'll quickly find another chance to evolve. Zillian was overjoyed. Since his master had said so, how could he refuse? Suddenly, the noisy mouth of Honey Badger shrieked, "Master, you're biased. What? Why aren't you staying on Earth? What are you doing here?" He ignored the scolding. He wanted strength too, just like Zillian. Honey Badger's motivation was simple. "I want to help Golden Monkey fight in the future. I want to stand beside him, so I need to grow stronger." The truth was, Honey Badger was only at early rank 4 Transcendent right now. At least not dragging his friend down would already be good enough. "Oh, you finally understand that much? I'm glad. A fine friendship indeed. In that case, I'll personally train you." Yuzi's face twisted into something ghostly and demonic, scaring what little courage Honey Badger had left. He turned tail to run. Too late, my boy. Anyone who came to volunteer wasn't allowed to escape. 1 month later, just as Earth was enjoying its most peaceful days, anyone who broke the peace would regret returning. Golden Monkey, while training alone, suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He glanced at the boar and the spirit nearby. All of their faces were ashen pale, their eyes fixed upon the insect cavern's pitch-black entrance. Something approaching within made Golden Monkey almost suffocate. Such overwhelming spiritual energy, yet why did it feel so familiar? Who has such heavy footsteps? A honey badger. He staggered out, battered beyond recognition, head swollen with lumps, clear evidence of his master's merciless clouts. After a month of Yuzi's personal care, he had clawed his way to rank 4 peak stage. So long as he could still walk, even if he looked pitiful, that was enough. He collapsed in front of Golden Monkey, muttering, "Finally, I'm back. Who did this to you? Tell us and we'll avenge you." True friends indeed, fierce loyalty. But Honey Badger had no heart left for that. The one who had beaten him was their master. Seething with grievance, he recounted the whole month, how their master had roared straight into his face, drilling him relentlessly from offense to defense. His voice never ceased. "If you don't take this seriously, I'll kill you myself." Honey Badger had wanted to give up many times, wanted to go home, but he couldn't. Yuzi forced him to train day after day. In the end, he didn't even want to describe it all. He summed it up simply, "Divine Tree wanted to kill me." One day, he even tried to escape, But once Yuziyu noticed, he immediately ordered Flash to capture him. Compared to his speed, how could the poor thing possibly get away? And once caught by the master's own hand, there was no chance at all. All Golden Monkey and the others could do was comfort him. Well, at least you do look stronger now. Only a month had passed, yet so much had changed. For example, Wine Deity brought back 1,000 stalks of spiritual bamboo straight to Poe's den, pointing at him and loudly declaring, "Count them yourself. From now on, our debt is settled." Poe glared at that little panda, pulled out a slip of paper, and shoved it at him. At the very bottom, in letters smaller than ants, only visible with a magnifying glass, it read, "If overdue, each day adds 100 stalks, 200 stalks, 500 stalks." Wine Deity was so furious he bared his fangs outright. The writing's so tiny, who could even notice that? Scam! And you even altered it. Poe didn't care. If you don't pay, don't even think about leaving here. The two brothers glared at each other, neither backing down. Finally, Poe said, "If you don't want to pay, fine. Just agree to one thing for me. Leave the mutant tree's side. The one you're about to face is called the Great Younger Brother. It's the Great Emperor, for heaven's sake." Poe just didn't care when Wine Deity corrected. Different name, but same thing, apparently. That fellow must be really powerful. It's something that even I am afraid of. I don't want you to die. You're the only brother I have left. Moved. Wine Deity called out, "Big brother." Poe was deadly serious this time. "Leave that place. Without you, they can still fight." "No," Wine Deity answered firmly. "I will never leave again. Even if I die, I want to die at everyone's side." He turned his back and walked away like a hero bound for sacrifice. Poe jumped up, shouting, "Best you die out there and never come back. Damn you, seriously." But when he reached that point, Poe ran out of curses. So angry he roared a whole string of nonsense just to vent. But do you know where a debtor like Wine Deity even got 1,000 stalks of spiritual bamboo? Langfeng went to his field only to find it in ruins, with only stumps left. He cried to the heavens, "Where's the spiritual bamboo I slaved so hard to plant?" The moment Leng Yu called him, he had already gone mad, looking ready to kill. Who? Who was it? Which bastard? I'll rip their heart out. A rat, overhearing his voice, poked its head out and angrily squeaked. That damned panda. It was that damned panda. He dug up all the bamboo and even beat me. So that lump was Wine Deity's handiwork, openly robbing and even assaulting his rat. The man was on the verge of turning into a demon, swearing he would kill him. Langfeng's furious roar spread through the forest. Meanwhile, Wine Deity dared not poke his face out from behind a rock. He had stolen, couldn't pay his debt, and now was being hunted. With no way back, he went begging the divine tree for a little life essence, then fled far away for a while. Yuziyu only watched him in silence, unwilling to be dragged into this mess. Before he could even plead for a drop of essence, Langfeng had already gone berserk like a bull charging red cloth. Yuziyu watched them brawling noisily and sighed. What kind of nonsense was happening every single day? As for him, even without fighting, just focusing on leveling up already consumed all his time. At present, Yuziyu had gained a new divine ability, Elemental Tide. It could summon boundless elements to drown enemies, and the denser the elements, the greater the power. It wasn't entirely new, but rather the fusion of all elements producing this new force called Elemental Tide. A new toy had to be tested immediately. Yuziyu pondered where to try it out. The largest training ground was, of course, the Starry Void. Riding Azure Dragon, he leapt straight to his chosen spot, the sun itself, radiating immense heat. Perfect place to test the elements. First, water. Yuziyu summoned an enormous volume of it to see whether elemental tide could swallow the sun, a place unreachable for mortals in their lifetimes, but water alone would surely not suffice. His vast spiritual power surged, enveloping Azure Dragon. He poured massive amounts of elemental force, quickly shrouding himself in a barrier of water. The strangest part was, he had expected to rely only on his own energy, but then realized the cosmic spiritual energy was merging with starlight, supplying him with endless power. So within the elements he was channeling was also the strength of the stars. Excitement rose within him. His elemental tide surged like relentless waves, and if it was to be used at all, it must be unleashed without restraint. In moments, the tide erupted, striking directly against the sun's surface, hissing into clouds of white vapor. Wave after wave crashed furiously into the blazing star. When the tide was finally consumed by the sun, the water element dispersed, scattering countless sparkling rays into the void. The sun flared up before gradually returning to its original form once the tide ended. Around Yuziyu, the starry space glimmered with dazzling starlight, utterly beautiful. That had been only 10% of his power. If his full strength is unleashed, the entire solar system could very well be destroyed. But within that glittering starlight, Yuziyu had no idea how vast a phenomenon had just been created. Only the small beings on Earth suddenly saw the sky blazing in multi-strange colors, shimmering at their intersection. James, chief of the Federation, instantly knew he was back. The mutant tree was back. How he had created such a sight, the man could not fathom. His abilities were simply beyond human imagination. Meanwhile, Yuziyu buried himself in study. Aside from Elemental Tide, most of his abilities were still lingering at rank 4. It was time to strengthen them. He scanned the void until he found a seed of vitality, then converted his spiritual power into life force to stimulate its growth. A primeval forest burst forth from the ground. Since this was a creation ability, Yuziyu wanted to enhance it first. After all, his life talent was boundless. It had to be related. The cost to strengthen it, 100 million evolution points. Damn it, that's insane. He leapt up, cursing the dogshit system. Why not just rob me outright? What's the point of a system then? Grumbling and furious, he still had no choice. As master of thousands he might be, he was still nothing more than a worker sold to capital. The surge of spiritual energy blazing through him eased the irritation a little, but also steeled his resolve. It isn't enough with just this. Continue strengthening. Leveling up to rank 5 was costly enough, but the system demanded a full 500 million evolution points to reach rank 6. No point hesitating, he agreed immediately. The torrent of power brought him overflowing vitality. Azure Dragon roared as though congratulating him for the breakthrough. Once the seed of vitality advanced to rank 6, it could root itself in the void, summoning a vast forest right across the barren, starry sky. Oh damn, now I don't even need ground. I can summon an entire forest in space itself. Of course, he had to test it immediately. Yuziyu cast down the seed of vitality along with the world tree descent, letting it spread beside him. Ancient-looking trees, as though thousands of years old, floated in the void, beneath them blooming multicolored flowers. But these weren't ordinary plants. They were spirit roots and divine trees. The sight was bizarre, roots suspended in empty space, yet it opened to him a thrilling vision. What would it look like if the whole universe were filled with divine trees and spirit roots I planted? Curiosity drove him further. What about his other skills? He poured all remaining points into upgrades, thunder control, lightning control, and more, until he was drained of evolution points. Inside the dimension of life, that same day, an explosion of spiritual energy cracked down on a headless boulder, startling all the exotic beasts within. They braced themselves, growling, waiting to see what could possess such power. And it turned out it was Spirit Flower. That radiant pillar was her breakthrough. The girl was overjoyed. Finally, her day had come. By her side, the golden butterfly fluttered excitedly in celebration. At last, rank 5. Ninetails didn't praise so directly. The eldest sister merely nodded, appraising. Though a bit slow, your spiritual energy is very strong. Yet her nature hadn't changed one bit. The person Spirit Flower wanted praise from most whined deity. When he said nothing, she trailed after him, whining, "Handsome, I've gotten stronger again." Yeah, then all the more reason to stay far away from me. This comic routine was all too familiar to the beasts of Misty Mountain, but to the insect race, it looked quite odd. To Insect King, a mere early rank 5 was nothing worth mentioning at all. Since Wine Deity didn't congratulate her, Spirit Flower, embarrassed, pulled out his flute and began to play, as though celebrating herself. Her little tune sent everyone scattering back in panic. "Wait, stop! Be quiet!" someone screamed. The insects couldn't understand. Why make such a fuss over a flute? But the moment the sound tore through their eardrums, each one realized this flute playing was atrocious on a cosmic scale. Even Yuziyu's face cracked in pain at the mournful screech. He spurred Azure Dragon toward the sound immediately. An enemy is attacking my mind. In another space, where molten fire raged and the hot-blooded gathered, Xiaoling was training, honing her flames to be more nimble and versatile. She had turned the entire land into rivers of lava, thrilled at her rising strength. When suddenly, boom, a section of space shattered, and the sound of the flute seeped through, loud and clear. But Xiaoling didn't recognize it as a flute. She felt it as a direct spiritual assault transmitted from the dimension of life. This was serious. Looking around, Yuziyu saw them all sprawled flat. Big ones, small ones, just short of foaming at the mouth. Anyone seeing it might think they'd been mass poisoned. The culprit, Spirit Flower, innocently asked, "Why is everyone asleep? I was just playing a happy tune." Ninetails poked her head out from behind her tails, muttering, "You nearly killed them all." Yuziyu and Xiaoling stepped in, asking what had happened as they saw no sign of fighting. The moment he spotted Spirit Flower holding her flute, He understood immediately. Found the cause. Master, would you like me to play a song for you too? She asked innocently. No, no, please, he rejected, waving frantically. The catastrophic scene was proof enough of her skill. If she stayed here any longer, forget the great emperor. This lot would all die first. Yuziyu quickly came up with an excuse to send her back to Earth. You've broken through. Then return and handle the matters of Misty Mountain. I need you to tidy everything within half a month. The number of beasts in Misty Mountain is growing daily, the territory vast. I need you to model after human empires and build a system for Misty Mountain. And to make sure Spirit Flower didn't think this task was light, he assigned Xiaoling to go with her as support. One more thing, the name Misty Mountain should be changed. I'm no longer just a willow in a back alley gorge. Now it's a nation, or even a planet. The name should reflect that. Naming wasn't Yuziyu's strength, so he left it to the two girls. That was far safer than leaving her here with her flute. Relieved, he mounted Azure Dragon and resumed training. By now, he had both instantaneous and lightning control at rank 6, but the next evolution required 30 billion evolution points. From having 100 billion in hand, he was back to being poor again. Still, the harvest was immense. Instantaneous at rank 6 could freeze time itself. Depending on his mastery, he could either accelerate himself or rewind time. Rewinding time would be a combat ability capable of overturning battles altogether. The only uncertainty, how much spiritual energy it would consume. Then there was Divine Speed Strike, freezing everything and delivering an attack in a single instant. It evolved from instantaneous, meant to pair with his tree roots and branches, striking like a storm so the enemy couldn't react. Even a pause of a second, or 0.01 of a second, was enough to decide victory. He had 30 billion points left, not much. This time he had to carefully choose what to enhance. Yes, this one, my innate life talent, absolute evolution. It allowed him to emulate all races, temporarily gaining their powers, but upgrading it would leave him only 10 billion points. He reluctantly bid farewell to 20 billion points, heart aching. Back in the old days, just tens of thousands of points had been enough for leaps of time. How sad. Now it was billions vanishing in an instant. But the spiritual light of absolute evolution shone in entirely new colors. Yuziyu knew he had to move fast, because out there in the cosmos lurked countless dangerous beings, all watching for their chance. Among those lurking in the void were the titans of the divine domain, colossal in size. One, like a mountain with a booming voice, asked, "Have we found cocoon nest number 7 yet?" Another answered, "Yes, those creatures have fled into a desolate starfield." Even as the words left his mouth, the ground ahead exploded with a deafening boom, and the head of the very titan who had just spoken rose up. This was the 5th divine pillar, known as Titan Mountain. With hatred blazing in his eyes, he looked far into the distance. "That insect race, I will bury you in the void itself." The smaller titans murmured among themselves, "He's gone to hunt the insect race. Should we inform the 1st divine pillar?" An aged one replied, "No need. The 1st divine pillar is at a critical juncture and cannot be disturbed. With his strength, the insect race cannot possibly stop him." The 5th divine pillar tore through space toward the desolate starfield, never imagining that within lay a shelter far greater than he could comprehend. The ancient titan spoke further. "The insect race, the angel race, and the void race, all are secretly observing us. But one day, I will annihilate you all." Then all eyes turned toward the smallest titan, leaping up onto a headless crag at the center. His body looked like scorched land overrun by lava, his voice childlike, yet he was none other than the 3rd divine pillar, the star-devouring titan. We didn't even get to the most important matter, and he's already rushed off." Then he dropped the bomb. "The Pantheon has appeared." At those words, all were shaken to the core. The Pantheon, an ancient, most terrifying power from the previous era, dwelling place of the gods. Its appearance had been predicted, but none had expected it so soon. "Something must have happened to force it to reveal so early," one muttered. While the universe churned in turmoil over these cosmic powers, Yuziyu was molding the form of absolute evolution rank 6, looking mighty and formidable. This ability relied on imaginative observation, allowing him to emulate all races, wielding 80% of their power and aura. "Amazing," he sighed, reading the description again. Before, to transform, he needed solid knowledge of the creature. Now, just by seeing and imagining, he could copy them. He thought of one being whose power he always desired. He imagined the form of darkness and transformed immediately. In seconds, his massive body condensed into a single black form, the familiar red eyes blazing. The black aura resembled the real thing to 99%. But the power, nothing. "Damn it!" Yuziyu roared. "As I thought, it won't work." The system and power of darkness had long since dissipated. There was nothing left in existence to emulate. Without it, mimicry was meaningless. But then, another figure sprang into his mind. Yuzi instantly triggered absolute evolution for the third time. A gigantic form appeared, blood red, none other than the Emperor's avatar. Such a gigantic body, I have already witnessed all the abilities during our battles. He was admiring when a violent jolt racked him. His consciousness soared like flocks of birds. No, like hundreds of thousands of flocks crashing into his mind. Memories surged in the first image. A bell, an ancient bronze bell, worn and old. He stared at it, and in that instant, a deafening clang rang out, as though something struck the bell, making it toll thunderously. Within the Emperor's form, Yuzi was instantly wrenched free of a nightmare, forcibly reverting to himself. Just that brief moment left him gravely wounded, gasping hard, taking several seconds to regain composure. What was that bell? What kind of thing could terrify someone like me so much? The fun with Azure Dragon had to end here, more than enough for one day. In the Titan Divine Domain, star-devouring Titan clasped his hands behind his back, gazing out into the vast universe. He muttered under his breath, "The bell, it has rung!" From beneath the ground, something massive and deep blue rose, Titan of immense presence. This one shared the form of the third pillar, yet was thousands of times larger, bearing that distinctive emerald hue. Seeing him rise, star-devouring Titan hesitated. What's wrong, first pillar?" "The eternal Imperial Army is about to appear," he answered. In the angel starfield, glorious, resplendent, countless angels with snowy wings looked up toward the heavens. That bell just now, it was the eternal Imperial Army, the Eastern Emperor bell. The sound of that bell was heard everywhere, and no one felt joy at hearing it. On a lush green planet, among ancient-style architecture, stood a warrior clad in archaic armor, staring at the sunset sky. Behind him, an elder bowed respectfully. This sound wasn't supposed to appear yet. Turning his face revealed nothing but hair, he asked, "Elder, do you know the origin of this bell?" "No, but this is a matter we must not interfere with. For countless eras that bell has remained silent. Could it be that one has reincarnated?" While the whole cosmos knew it as the toll of the Eastern Emperor bell, Yuzi only stood dumbfounded before the sun, determined to see that vision once more. He had to know what the bell truly was. So he once more invoked absolute evolution into the Emperor's form, unleashing even greater spiritual power. Memories rushed in just as before. He searched, and soon the bell came into view. But the bell unraveled, fragmenting into paper-like scraps scattered in the wind. Yet those fragments did not vanish. They gathered and reshaped into a humanoid form. Its skin gleamed golden yellow, utterly hairless. Above the sky, something vast opened, pitch black, bottomless. Ziyu could not fathom it. The bell transformed into a golden man, and the scene around him. Was this a battlefield? He stared hard, but found no answer until that being suddenly burst into wild laughter. "Heaven's law!" He shouted toward the gaping black void like a colossal mouth, then laughed again, voice cracking into madness. "I have lost, but what about you?" With that, still laughing like a lunatic, he shot straight into the abyss, colliding with a boom that shook heaven and earth itself. The shockwave was so immense that Yuzi, peeking with only one eye, could barely endure it. "What is this situation?" "See it clearly?" the golden being sneered. The voice sounded almost at his ear. A streak of light darted straight at Yuzi. Before he could grasp what was happening, the figure stood before him. It was his own face, the mutant willow tree, not the Emperor's avatar. Yuzi froze. How? Just now I was inside a memory, not reality. How can he be standing here? Red fragments scattered around him reminded him. His mimicry had been completely dispelled. But why could this figure manifest to confront him directly? So many questions, and like the Eastern Emperor bell itself, none he could answer. Wait, the words the golden figure had spoken just now, they were in the language of humankind. That one, is he human? His form resembled the disguised transcendent humans he had seen, but how could he pierce through memory to appear before him? Yuzi guessed that some remnant consciousness of this being had endured through countless eras, yet even now, its strength was still overwhelming. Fixing his gaze on the golden figure, Yuzi channeled his spiritual power, his presence growing far more terrifying. Since the will of this being still lingered, why not ask directly? "Are you a friend or foe?" Yuzi demanded. The figure simply replied, "I will help you." "Help me? And why should I trust you?" Yuzi shouted in his face, but the other remained calm, answering only, "Go find it, the Eastern Emperor bell." His voice faded away, and Yuzi panicked, calling out, wait a minute," but that one came and went as he pleased. In the blink of an eye, only Yuzi remained in the vast universe, gone, leaving behind only a single clue, the Eastern Emperor bell. With that, Yuziyu asked the system. Beside the name Eastern Emperor Bel, two more words appeared: Imperial Armament. Origin: a primordial, innate imperial armament. From the moment of its birth, it carried eternal divine might. Its power could suppress the nine heavens, shatter the myriad skies of space-time, deduce the mysteries of the heavens' law, refine earth, water, wind, and fire. Abilities: seal time, suppress space, counter any strike, neutralize all damage from divine weapons and treasures. It wielded both offense and defense. Incredible. Sealing time and suppressing time. If he could obtain the Eastern Emperor Bel, then even in battle against the Emperor, his chances of victory would rise. And just that was enough for Yuziyu to decide. He had to have the Eastern Emperor Bel. But the hardest question was, where to find it? Ancient relics from bygone eras, he'd have to ask the truly old ones. Yuziyu might be strong, but he was still of the younger generation, and his subordinates were all brats as well. Wait, hold on 2 seconds. There was an ancient one at his side, Demon Phoenix. The Phoenix was fast asleep, wings folded. When Yuziyu jolted, he awake with a surge of spiritual power. He spread his wings wide and bowed in an archaic salute. Without delay, Yuziyu asked, "Phoenix, the current you are able to see my future?" "Let me give it a try," he answered simply, but with deep authority. The Phoenix spread his wings, shrieked long, and spiritual power surged around him. He invoked his eyes of divination, eyes that pierced the future. But such a skill, by law of heaven, could not reveal what he saw aloud. Yet even before speaking, the Phoenix spewed blood from its beak. "What's wrong? Are you all right?" Yuziyu rushed forward, about to tell it to stop, when it whispered, "Master, I saw only this. You are searching for something. If you insist on obtaining it, you will die." Yuziyu literally froze. After all he had overcome, 1,000 perils endured to fall just from chasing after one item, he did not press further, but instead offered life essence to help the Phoenix recover. If the future could not be asked, then he would ask the past. "Phoenix, can you see from which planet I originated?" It could not name it, only that the place was barren and desolate all around. Yuziyu nodded, then left without another word. Meanwhile, Earth was flourishing. The factions no longer fought, instead pooling all effort into advancing technology. Jen bowed deeply to his master, reporting, "The Void Gates will be completed within half a month. At present, 20 of them have already been erected across the world, large enough now to contain even a gigantic creatures like Lava Dragon." Good news or not, Xiaoling only furrowed her brows and said, "Earth is still far too weak compared to Azure Star. From now on, every transcendent rank 4 creature must move to Azure Star or into the dimension of life. Earth can no longer withstand the combat strength of rank 4s and above." A peaceful day on Earth, until yesterday, when a flood of black crows appeared. Hundreds of thousands of them, so dense the sky itself darkened. But they didn't come to massacre humanity. Instead, they replaced the falcons to announce, on behalf of Divine Tree, to the entire planet, by order of the Divine Tree, from this day forth, all humans and creatures of rank 4 transcendent and above from Blue Star must come to Azure Star. Any who refuse will be deemed enemies of Misty Mountain. Panic swept through humanity. The only thought on everyone's mind was, why must be transcendent rank 4 and above? Suddenly, all lights across the city went out, except one giant screen of Central Square appeared, Xiaoling's face. Some people didn't recognize her, but the transcendent humans of Earth knew her well. She was the mutant tree's right hand. She was here to announce something to the entire world. "Next, I will be making an announcement." Another day had just rose on Earth, just outside the city zone. The hoof of a massive beast landed, horns jutting like mountains. Not far away, a boar-like beast with coarse black bristles, its eyes blood-red and feral. Two exotic beasts glared at each other, then turned their gazes toward the human city. A bucket clattered against the wall with a clang, followed by angry curses. "Damn it! Why? Finally reached rank 4, and now you tell me I have to leave? Just like that?" The elder looked at his grandson Longer throwing a tantrum, utterly baffled. "What are you losing your mind for? You think you can reincarnate in 2 seconds? You want to die?" Stubbornness had always been Longer's way. He snapped back defiantly. "Whoever wants to leave, can leave. I'm not going." The crow cameras, powered by nothing but instinct, caught that exact line, zooming in on Longer's house. No one knew what the beasts would do in response, but soon the whole building shook as though struck by an earthquake. In truth, it was the footsteps of those two colossal creatures. They had already reached the Federation's capital city, fixing their eyes on the high rises. They roared thunderously, drawing the entire populace out into the streets. It was the Rhinoceros King and Rat King, the very same who had appeared when war first broke out with darkness. And they were still gigantic now. Their roars grew louder as they thundered toward the city, not to attack humans, but to protest. "We will not abandon our homeland." Then why the hell are you wrecking the city if you want to stay in your homeland? The human transcendents hadn't even had time to act before the two lunatics had already trampled half a kilometer of buildings into rubble. Beneath their mountain-heavy feet, houses and streets turned instantly to dust. From the thick clouds above, a pair of black wings sliced downward. Thunder dragons swept out from within the city, soaring past the human transcendents, gathering an immense core of lightning in its maw. With a deafening blast, he unleashed the bolt straight at the charging Rhinoceros King and Rat King. The two hulks, like moving mountains, couldn't stop in time. Their faces caught the full brunt of the lightning strike. Since they had already crushed buildings, Thunder Dragon decided to go all the way, obliterating the wreckage entirely, leaving nothing behind. The human transcendents skidded to a halt, staring dumbfounded at the destruction. The might of that sweeping bolt was too terrifying. Had they blundered closer, they would all have been wiped out and called it bad luck. That scene was quickly broadcast live to many places. Everyone was scared out of their wits, finally understanding why Xiaoling had gone on air to explain that day. The destructive power of a rank 4 transcendent had already far surpassed your imagination, not to mention the strength of exotic beasts above rank 4, which also came with intelligence. To avoid unnecessary wars, as well as the risk of this Earth being destroyed, anyone from rank 4 transcendent and above had to go to Azure Star. The evidence was that besides the Rhinoceros King and the Rat King, there were also many exotic beasts of colossal size. And with an overwhelming number of immortal crowns, anyone who harbored thoughts of resistance, if they didn't die from remaining on this planet, they would only be torn apart by those creatures. Xiaoling issued the order with extreme firmness, and also said right from the start, within 10 days from the date of this announcement, everyone from rank 4 transcendent and above had to gather at the teleportation gate. A great silence spread through all the people before everyone was stirred up, seeking out the cities and locations that had teleportation gates as soon as possible. Since the insect race had submitted to Misty Mountains, they were arranged to reside on the outskirts of the galaxy. Several days passed, and the 5th Titan Pillar had tracked down this region, his hatred reaching its peak when he caught the familiar scent of the bugs. The Titan arrived. Insect Mother was the first to sense it. Earlier, we attacked their territory. Now they must have come for revenge? That must be the only reason. But right now, both Insect King and the Insect Princess aren't here. She immediately ordered her subordinates to notify the beasts of Misty Mountains. The star cluster closest to Azure Star was guarded by the lava dragon. When he heard the Insect Mother's subordinates report that the Titan race had arrived, he showed no sign of panic, muttering something like, "Since I fully fused with the bloodline of the rock dragon, I still haven't used it seriously even once." The insect messenger had no idea what that meant. The dragon rose, its massive body beginning to move to that direction. "This is a good opportunity. I must test my strength at last." With a single leap, it shattered the stone ground beneath it. The lava dragon set off at once to seek out its opponent. The news reached Azure Star a bit later, but it still arrived, throwing Insect Princess into a panic. "Master, Insect Mother just sent word. The Titan Pillar has crossed the stars to hunt down the insect race." Yuziyu totally lost, as he doesn't even know what a Titan Pillar was. Insect Princess was frantic. Earlier, the insect race had slaughtered thousands of their clansmen. For years now, the 5th Pillar God had never ceased his pursuit of exterminating the insect hives, so she was very worried. For Yuziyu, there was nothing to worry about, especially since Lava Dragon had already arrived there as reinforcement. The starry sky was filled with floating starstones when suddenly something shot across with terrifying speed. Lava Dragon went alone to face the 5th Titan Pillar without needing any other support. Yuziyu didn't need to rush to call for reinforcements either, because he wouldn't lose. He was certain of that. Still quite far from the outskirts, Lava Dragon had already sensed the aura of the Titan. At the same time, the Titan too had detected an unfamiliar spiritual force, surging toward him at blinding speed. He calmly waited for the being to arrive, having heard rumors that the insect race had some powerful backing, and he absolutely had to see who he was. When he finally got a clear look at Lava Dragon's form, only then did he realize how massive he was. The spiritual pressure he exuded was overwhelming. He was secretly astonished. How could such a terrifying beast exist in such a remote star region? As soon as Lava Dragon arrived, he roared straight into the Titan's face. "Where has this creature come from that dares step into our defensive line?" "Oh, you can shout? Then I can shout too. This time I've come for revenge. If you don't want to get dragged in, you'd better crawl back." The moment the enemy spoke, Lava Dragon could already feel a crushing pressure weighing on his body like a massive mountain. But who was it? He only needed to spread the wings wide, one beat lifting himself high into the heavens, exuding a majestic aura. "This time, I can finally fight with full strength." With excitement, he unleashed his spiritual power, his whole body igniting with molten gold like flowing metal, making even the Titan surprised. The two clashed at once, and the heat of battle flared instantly. This fight was destined to be long. Victory or defeat was still unknown. At that moment, Uzu had just bored a hole through space, poking out his snake head to broadcast the battle live for the folks back home. Hearing the thunderous explosions was thrilling to the ears, and they all shouted in excitement, "They're fighting!" Uzu was no less excited than the rest. Despite the overwhelming effects, this was only the beginning. Next, each side let out a roar to threaten the other and display power, though neither seemed all that intimidated. Lava Dragon somehow hauled out a starstone dozens of times larger than himself and hurled it effortlessly at the opponent. Flash found this move brilliant. What strength! A colossal starstone tossed like a pebble, as if it weighed nothing. The Titan clenched his fist, pouring power into a punch, and with a single blow cracked it straight through. That was the chance Lava Dragon had been waiting for. He shot up high, then came crashing down with its massive, thick tail onto the Titan's head. The impact shook the void, and unable to resist in midair, the Titan was knocked flying into a minor starstone below. Lava Dragon's strength is growing stronger and stronger, isn't it? Big Brother Bull Demon sighed in admiration. His growing power only amplified his might, and the battle was already proving spectacular. Xiaolon turned to her silly tiger and asked, "Do you think Lava Dragon can win, honey?" Mouth stuffed with cake, the tiger mumbled back, "Easily, though I don't really remember how strong Lava Dragon used to be. I just know he's strong." A swirling pillar of black smoke gradually revealed the Titan's solid frame once more. True, he had just been knocked down, but he seemed only out of surprise. In truth, he wasn't the least bit injured, not even a scratch. Lava Dragon remembered that it had used quite a lot of its strength just now, so why was this guy perfectly fine? "Do you know who I am? I am the fifth pillar of the Titan race." As he said this, he swung his fist with lightning speed forward. High above, Lava Dragon was already prepared, mouth wide open to meet the 1,000-pound punch head-on. Strange, why didn't it dodge, but instead charged straight in and used its mouth to block? The spectators watching had no idea why Lava Dragon would do such a thing. Another violent explosion erupted as the two forces collided. When they could see clearly, Lava Dragon's fangs had sunk deep into the Titan's arm. He wrenched hard, but Lava Dragon refused to let go. His teeth ground down, piercing through skin tougher than meteorite, and the sound of cracking rang out, making the Titan tremble in dread. "This isn't good." With his remaining hand, the Titan smashed a punch into Lava Dragon's neck, forcing him to release immediately, his body flung into a nearby starstone. One had to admit that punch packed quite some force. Lava Dragon was scratched and battered a little, though he still stood tall and proud. He glared at the Titan's arm, which had been bitten clean off, and found the sight rather satisfying. Splurt! A new arm sprouted instantly right where the severed one had been, spiritual power surging out and forming blue flames along both sides. Insect Princess watched the battle with clear tension. "He's gotten even stronger." At this point, Uzu said nothing more, just silently watched, for that was enough. The Titan was a completely new kind of opponent for Misty Mountains, with much yet to be learned. The pillar leapt high, unleashing a furious roar, as though he carried dozens of ice mountains with him. With overwhelming momentum, he soared up at extreme speed and drove a sky-shattering punch straight into Lava Dragon's chest. He grunted in pain, blood spraying from its mouth. Before he could counter, the Titan had already leapt higher than his head, hammering down nearly 20 consecutive punches on his skull, neck, and horns. The more he punched, the more frenzied he became, each blow louder than the last. Stone fragments flew like rain. No starstone could withstand the assault. Amid the thick dust cloud, Lava Dragon's scorched gold scales gleamed clearly. It looked nearly unconscious, teetering on collapse.